you so much for coming. This is the end of a long 6 months for Think Global School in Dubai, and just coming to see a little glimpse of our world it means a lot to us. The students have put themselves out there with the projects that you see, which was the result of 7 weeks hard work. The projects, a lot of them are meant to be a launch pad into something else. We'll be going on to Mexico after a great time in Dubai, and our other cohort will actually be coming into Dubai in January. So I think Global School will be in Dubai for a considerable amount of time in the, hopefully, the post-pandemic era, but let's see about that. If there's any questions, the staff will be in and around the expo. If there's any questions about the school, how it operates, anyone who has helped us this term, there's so many people, from Project U, Ray from the School of Humanities helps us so much. We've had guest speakers like Jamie. Warren, thank you for your hospitality. I know we drove you mad probably most days in the conference rooms, but you've always been super polite to us over in the classrooms. There's so many other people that I'll go around and say thank you to. And the parents who are here, giving us your sons and daughters and trusting us is huge. We've got a very special guest speaker, which is Jonathan today. Guest speaker is probably overrating it a bit, but a welcoming speaker. Jonathan has led some of the biggest and best schools across the UK. He's now one of the biggest consultants in the UAE, and I met Jonathan at the GESS conference last week, where we as a school, Think Global School, got a wonderful welcome from the team there, and Jonathan agreed my very impromptu request just to say, after working in so many prestigious schools, especially in the UK, just to say a few words on what we call disruptive education and what Think Global School are trying to do in the world. And Jonathan kindly agreed to my last minute demand, so I'm very grateful, my friend. So the floor for a few minutes is yours, and then I'll come up and welcome our guest speakers from the student body who are going to say a little bit on the future of education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Russell, for stitching me up and volunteering me in that way. Any notes I've had just gone straight out the window, because what I've seen here today is the ultimate disruptive education, in that it's education is not teaching. Remembering education is what you remember when all the teaching is forgotten, and that's a really important part. I'm very fortunate to have run different schools, including a big school over here, a very conventional school, where we really went around saying you can only learn if you're wearing a tie and a blazer, because that's the only way you should learn. And so that was one form of education, to another form of education where the school I ran back in the UK, one of the schools I ran back in the UK, was very much based on failure and how important it was to learn how to fail. And I was delighted to hear that when in your camping and your hiking trips, you've got lost. Because the most important thing to do is to learn to get lost and then find yourself again. And what I've seen here, just detecting, is ultimate disruptive education. It is about developing all those parts of us. We all have an IQ, and I haven't got time to talk about plastic IQs, but all of us have abilities to learn and develop. And one of the companies I'm involved with, High Performance Learning, is based on this idea that everybody has massive potential. They're not half the population below average and half above average. Everybody has potential. It's really important to develop that. And these brains in here, mine's less flexible because I'm very old, but all these brains here are very flexible. So our IQs are really important. And I've seen some of the project work which has been stretching your IQs quite a lot, which is important. But the other aspects of being, and what disruptive education is about, is developing the other quotients, which are harder to measure. And the big problem about education is we only value what we can measure. And actually what's really important in life is immeasurable. You can't measure kindness. You can't measure happiness. You can't measure resilience. You can't measure perseverance. You can't measure those abilities which are really important. And I was saying to Zoya,
Yeah, she's outside.
She's outside. She heard, and therefore she's there. But actually, it's that who ultimately education is about wanting to share a desert island with somebody. And when you put your fantasy figure away, and actually sharing a desert island with fantasy figures is not attractive, but actually you want a decent, balanced human being. He's got a good IQ, he's got a good emotional intelligence, and you lot have learnt to live with 30 other strange people, even though you might be strangers. And that's a huge EQ, your emotional quotient, your PQ, your physical quotient, which some of you learned steep hills in Fujairah, and the Hajj mountains are quite steep, but you learned about your physical prowess and your physical quotient. But I hope that you'll also develop your SQ, which is your spiritual quotient. And hopefully, lying outside and watching those stars from the desert, you go, wow, wow. Awe and wonder and creativity come from that. So, I will shut up and we can listen to proper people. Actually, because they've done it. I've really talked it and seen it. But thank you. I've been so enlivened by what I've seen already. And well done to the parents who are bold enough to do this. And I'm delighted to then now go out saying, wow, this is proper education. And you lot will be rolling the stone of the world to move it and make it a bit better. And that's actually the object of education. I will shut up and sit down.